Hi there everybody, this is David, and today I want to give my final thoughts on the adventures of Elliot. And maybe I'm like a little bit late to the party on this one, but I didn't get an early access key, and I wanted to fully complete the game before I went and talked about it. I didn't want to only spend 2 or 3 hours of it and then go ahead and review it. I wanted to really fully complete the game and settle with my thoughts and really marinate with them and let you know how I felt about the game instead of just like rushing something out. And I definitely do think it's worth the sub as you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your brand new hype. It helps me out a ton. So, I've been playing RPGs for a long time, since the 1980s, back on the NES. I played the very first Final Fantasy back in the day on the NES in 3rd grade. One of my first memories of playing a game was actually the original Legend of Zelda. I got Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and I played it with my brother and I really liked it. I got Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, and I really liked that one back on the SNES. I liked the light world and the dark world and like the interdimensional travel and stuff like that. I thought it was really freaking cool. And I like how they changed the light world and the dark world so it wasn't just the same thing over and over and over again. Now, let's get into Adventures of Elliot, because unfortunately, they didn't change all that much. I do want to make one thing clear though before I get into my problems with the game. I did enjoy the game. I wouldn't have finished it if I didn't enjoy the game. I really thoroughly had a good time with it, but I'm not here to pretend like it's some sort of masterpiece or anything else like that, because it's really not. It has its issues, and that is what I want to focus on in here. So don't think that I'm making this video just to rage on the game or just to hate on the game or anything else like that. This is constructive criticism. Take it for what it is. I'm not here to praise everything about it. And if you're looking for somebody just to praise everything about it, you're probably watching the wrong video, because that's not what this is going to be. There are plenty of things that I did enjoy. The story was cool. The characters were fun. The voice acting was surprisingly good, minus the fairy, who I wanted to throttle because she just wouldn't, even whenever you'd put her on like reticent to like keep her quiet, she would still like talk about, oh hey, this is a door, I wonder how we get through it. And it's like, that's not important, you're not supposed to say these things. So yeah, she was a little bit talkative, which did get on my nerves. And there is a lot going for the game, but there's also some things that just again got on my nerves. One thing that bothered me, that I knew from the demo, that I knew would bother me, that continued throughout the entire game, was kind of like the Zelda-style progression, where you don't get experience points from defeating enemies. Instead, you just pretty much just earn gold. And yeah, gold is useful. You can use it to upgrade your Magicite slots, and you can use it to buy various upgrades and potions and things like that, so it's not worthless. But there's something to be said about watching your characters level up and gain more experience points and gain more strength. And we saw that back in Final Fantasy Adventure, which is the very first mana game. And this was kind of based upon that. This was their answer to Zelda and Final Fantasy Adventure. They literally said that those were the inspirations of it. And in Final Fantasy Adventure, you could gain levels back on the Game Boy, but you can't gain levels here. You could gain levels back in Crystallis and Secret of Mana, but you can't gain levels here. Like, I really, really missed not being able to gain levels and, actually have an HP bar and get extra strength and stuff like that. So I felt like every time that I was fighting the same enemies over and over and over again, because in all 4 time periods you're fighting the same enemies, like, I felt like there wasn't that much progression unless you upgraded your weapon. But there wasn't really much to actually upgrade your weapon. Like, yeah, there are 3 different tiers of weapons that you can have, 3 different swords, the beginning, the middle, and the ending sword. Same thing for all the other weapons and everything. But in a game like Secret of Mana, there were 8 different progression levels for 8 different weapons. Here there's only 3 progression levels for 8 different weapons, and it just felt kind of limited. And yeah, you have the Magicite to help power it up too, but you can only have 1 of each Magicite, and like only certain Magicite actually power up the strength aspect of the weapon. So I just kind of felt like that was kind of like a missed opportunity. Also, I felt like there wasn't really much reason to get treasure chests in the game. Like, pretty much 99% of all the treasure chests either had gold or they had magicite in it. That was pretty much it. If you look at a game like Secret of Mana, you had not only the multiple weapon orbs where you could pick up in a treasure chest, but you also had armor, you had helmets, you had like gloves and things like that. You had different armor slots here. Elliot doesn't have armor, all he has is accessories. And you're not really finding accessories in treasure chests either, you're pretty much just finding them in the quests. Which would be one good reason to do quests if you could use each accessory, but you only have 3 accessory slots. And believe me, some accessories are much better than others. The very beginning accessories that you get are pretty much some of the best accessories in the entire game. So as you're going through the quests and you're doing them, yeah, the story is great and all that, but you're thinking, is the reward for these quests actually worth it? Am I actually going to use this accessory? More than likely, no, you're not going to use that accessory because it's just not as good as the accessories that you already have. So that makes the excitement of finding those treasure chests, of really exploring and looking for them, it just kind of goes down. It doesn't feel as rewarding. Then whenever you do find like a good treasure chest, sometimes it's a piece of magicite, which is fine. But I would say a good 70% of the time, I already had that magicite piece. So okay, I just went and I opened up the treasure chest and I got a magicite piece, but I already had it. So then it just like transfers into one little magicite point. And it's like, ugh, that's just so disappointing. Which leads me into another criticism of the game. And this is probably my biggest criticism of the game. And that is the time travel. On paper, having 4 different eras sounds pretty fantastic, you know? The problem though is that they just aren't different enough. Each era is basically the same world. Earlier, I brought up Link to the Past, where there was a light world and a dark world. And yeah, they were the same Hyrule, but they were different enough to really feel completely different from one another. Here though, I kind of felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. The enemies were the same. The treasure chests were in the same locations, even so much so as like the places that you had to bomb in order to get to the treasure chests were in the exact same locations over all 4 eras. And it's just kind of like, what? It just felt like the same world. Enemies the same, treasure chests the same, dungeon locations the same as well. And then the dungeons, it was like, there's one true dungeon in one of the eras, and then the other 3 dungeons are like the small dungeons where you get a cat or you get a treasure, and it's just like one floor. You know what I mean? Every single dungeon felt that way, where there's one time period that has the big real dungeon, and then all the other 3 time periods, oh, you just go in here to get one treasure chest and a cat, and the treasure chest, of course, is just gold or some magicite fragments, so it's kind of like, not really worth it. Another game that had time travel, Chrono Trigger. So I couldn't help but compare Adventures of Elliot to Chrono Trigger. And whereas in Chrono Trigger, everything seemed very different, here it looked the same. There was only one era in Chrono Trigger where it was pretty much kind of the same, and that was 600 AD and 1000 AD. They looked similar, but they still had very meaningful differences. You had Magus attacking, going through the armies and everything else in 600 AD. You had different dungeons that you had to go through in that time period that didn't exist in 1000 AD. You didn't have the exact same dungeons, just smaller in one of the time periods. And then you had completely unique eras that didn't look like anything else, like prehistory, like the future, and also like the Ice Age. None of those felt anything samey. And the only dungeon really in Chrono Trigger that felt samey was Guardia Forest in 600 and 1000 AD. You know, that was pretty much it. Everything else was completely different in Chrono Trigger, but not so in Adventures of Elliot. It all felt the same. I remember I saw somebody compare this to Bravely Default, where you end up like repeating the same content over and over and over again, kind of towards the end of the game of Bravely Default, and I thought to myself, oh no, that's gonna suck. But after playing the game, I can kind of see that that is a fair comparison. And by the time that I reached the 3rd and the 4th era, I was just kind of like, I just wasn't excited to explore anymore, because I felt like I already knew what I was going to see. If I went north, I'd go to a snowy area. If I went out west, I'd get to a desert area, then a mountain area. You know what I mean? Like, it was just all the same in all 4 eras, and that there was really just my biggest criticism of the game. Like I said earlier, I had fun with the game. I'm glad that I played it. I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed it enough to finish it, and I don't regret playing it. I just feel like it could have been better. It could have been elevated if it wasn't so samey. If it didn't ask the player to explore the same world 4 different times and become so repetitive. If they can make time periods feel very different and unique back in 1995 with Chrono Trigger, I don't think that it's unfair to ask them to do the same thing in 2026. I feel like they could have done better. They could have differentiated the treasure chests a little bit better. They could have made the time periods feel much more different, but they didn't. And that there is my final thoughts on the Adventures of Elliot. I think it's a good game. I think it's a fun game. I think that it brings me back to my childhood of playing games like Link to the Past, but I also do feel like it is repetitive, and that's just what I want to get out there. That's just what I want to say. I feel like not a lot of people are saying this, and that is my final thoughts on Adventures of Elliot. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the game? Let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good day.